Hey, here we are. TGIF. It's almost 5 in the morning here. And, interesting. Again, I try to do a video pretty much every day, at least on the weekdays. And, obviously, still a fat guy right now, right? I mean, this doesn't happen overnight. But, as I've been saying in my recent videos, I noticed lots of changes already in only, week and a half, almost 2 weeks. Everything from a better sense of well-being, a sense of strength coming back, balance, less inflammation, less certain types of aches and pains, and also clothes feeling a little looser. I noticed yesterday when I was on the, as you know or may know, I also mentioned that I work in New York City and I commute back and forth every day, and I take a commuter bus as well as the New York City subway to and from work. So I noticed yesterday when I was on the bus, standing up in the small space between seats, certain things like that, I noticed that all of a sudden I could fit in certain spaces a little better. Walking down the aisle of a bus. Little things like that you normally wouldn't think of. How my clothes fit. Not feeling like an overstuffed sausage. Trying to fit into my clothes. My pants not pulling at me around the waist or the legs. The shirts. Being able to take clothes that are fresh out of the laundry, which normally, when they're fresh out of the laundry from the dryer, they're usually a little snug until they loosen up. They're a little snug until they loosen up. Not anymore. I was able to put my pants on, put my shirt on without stretching it out first, or trying to pull on it and stretch it out once I get it on because it fit better. Things like that. So while there's no dramatic weight loss to see yet, I don't have, as you know, I don't have a scale, so I'm not weighing myself, which is good and it's bad. It's bad in that, I don't know how much I've actually lost, but at the same time, I don't want to get fixated on numbers like that. I don't want to get fixated on scale numbers. Because, in any weight loss, you have, you lose, you gain, you lose, you gain. And while that's natural, those little gains can become a little demotivating at times. So I'd rather go by how I look and I feel. I'll worry about the scale later when I want to demonstrate, a lot of weight loss. So anyway, all these positive developments, I was able to pull my, how you put your hand on, in the inside waist of your pants and pull them out so you can see. I mean, I've got a lot more space there now. It's just definitely something going on here, okay? Good stuff. My wife notices. This is someone who sees me every day. She notices, and as a matter of fact, she was talking to one of the other mothers at my daughter's, we have a 4-year-old, and at the dancing school, one of the other mothers is like a nurse at a nearby hospital. We've got several big hospitals in the area, and it turns out this woman does intermittent fasting, and she was telling my wife that a lot of the doctors at the hospital do intermittent fasting themselves. Now, this is amazing. I had known about intermittent fasting online. I experimented with it about a year ago, lost a little bit of weight. I've never, ever been suggested this by a doctor. You know? I mean, I go to the doctors. No doctor has ever suggested, when they mention weight loss, hey, have you tried intermittent fasting? So apparently, intermittent fasting is this big fad amongst physicians, doctors. It's how they all control their weight. She's telling my wife. And, yeah, it really works. It really works. They all love it. Very interesting. Who's going to mention this to their patients? I mean, this is big in the physician community, right? I don't know. That blew my mind. Just the way she told my wife this, and she was telling my wife, "Oh, you should do this." You know, I couldn't convince my wife to even attempt this. And maybe that's why. Maybe that's why these doctors don't tell too many people about it, or they don't, it's not 100%, scientifically proven in a way, or they're playing it safe, or, it's one of these things that, anybody can choose to do on their own, but to have a doctor recommend it, it's still not going to happen. Maybe they're all watching Dr. Jason Fung on YouTube and said, oh, yeah, we respect that he's a nephrologist and all of this and all this stuff, and it makes sense. Because, I mean, Joe Rogan had this surgeon, this East Coast, West Coast surgeon on, and he was talking about it, how, a doctor, especially who does rounds in the hospital and stuff, how it's a great time saver. You don't have to worry about food during the day. And it really is. Not having to worry about food preparation. It's cheaper. It's cheaper financially. It's cheaper from a time perspective. When I'm at work, unless we have one of these birthday lunches for one of the employees or something, and they usually come up about once a month. In the absence of something like that, I would only deviate for stuff like that, stuff you can't get out of. So that would be like an early end of the fast type day. But, and you could still skip the breakfast and everything, right? It frees you up, Oh, by the way, like, subscribe, hit the bell, and I have my link in all the descriptions. My Amazon shirts, I'm creating a line of shirts on this subject. The link says fitness. I'm going to have a lot of stuff in there, but right now I'm concentrating on creating some intermittent fasting stuff. Yesterday, I created a really cool smiley face design. And there's going to be variations on that are coming. And I think some of them are cute. I think it's kind of cool. So anyway, I try to mention that in my videos. I don't have too many subscribers yet. Too many video views. Hopefully that'll pick up in the future. And some fun stuff for people who are really into the lifestyle. I see this as a lifestyle change. And when you Google it, the Bulletproof guy with the blog, his explanation of what IF is comes up first. This is less of a diet, more of a lifestyle change. It really is. It's a lifestyle. I was telling my wife, I was like, yeah. She's like, well, what happens when you lose all the weight? I said, you just stay with the lifestyle. You get used to it. I mean, this is like a way you're going to have to eat to maintain, I'll worry about maintenance later when I've actually lost all the weight I want to lose. But, you can't go back to eating 3 squares a day with snacking in between and having your insulin ramped up. You'll just gain the weight back. But this is doable. I mean, this is honestly just getting used to breaking the myth that you have to have 3 meals a day, breaking the myth about breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Look, I was always a lover of breakfast ever since I'm a kid. I mean, mentally, I still miss breakfast. There's nothing like, I love breakfast food, you know, eggs, or eggs and bacon, or English muffins. I still, when my wife buys, I love the English muffins, you know, with butter on top. I love that, toasted English muffin. They're really American muffins, by the way. I don't think they have these in England. They was created by an English immigrant in the 1800s, just so you know, in New York City. But anyway, I love those things, and she has them. Every so often at night during my eating window, I'll pop a muffin in there, and I'll have it. Because I'm like, I can't have these at breakfast anymore. I still want to enjoy that experience, and it's been working. Last night for dinner, I probably had, I don't know, calorically, it might have been one of my biggest ones, but, I mean, basically, I don't eat a lot of red meat. It's mostly chicken, or chicken and fish, mostly chicken, but my wife had chopped meat, so I had two big burgers, with a little bit of cheese on them, and a sunny side egg on each one. I was craving that. And basically, I had one in a roll, not a hamburger roll. These like rolls from the, like they're called Portuguese rolls. So I had one in a roll, like you would have a hamburger, and the other one I just had in the dish with the fork, you know. I didn't want to overdo the bread, but I want to be able to enjoy bread. I'm not doing keto. So I had that. That was very satisfying. I don't normally have red meat, but that was great. And, you know, calorically, it had to be a lot. 2 big burgers like that with an egg on each. You might find that disgusting, but that's a common thing. That's a thing. I didn't invent it, okay? It's out there, okay? It's out there. So, I was craving that. I really enjoyed it. And, you know, like through my eating window, I might, you know, I'll come home, I'll have dinner, something like that, or whatever's for dinner. And then, you know, through my eating window, through the evening, I'll have, you know, like say, I'll have 1 or 2 bananas. You know, that's my fiber. You know, bananas, they're fruit. I know it's not ideal. I don't eat vegetables with every meal. My wife doesn't buy a lot of vegetables. We don't cook a lot of vegetables. I like them, but they're not always part of a meal. But she buys bananas consistently. I love bananas. The potassium, I think it's important. I've had low potassium in the past. So they're good for fiber and certain nutrients and vitamins. So I try not to eat them too ripe. If they end up getting ripe, I'll eat them. I prefer them on the greener side, and that's the whole resistant starch thing. There's a video by Thomas Lauer where he mentions resistant starch. I didn't actually watch the video, but I know where he was getting. Digestively speaking, and bananas in their less ripe state are more a resistant starch, which is considered beneficial, and you still get a lot of the beneficial parts of the banana versus the sweet side with all the sugar. When the starch develops into the sugar, they become more, you know, insulin causing or whatever. So I enjoy bananas, and you know, through the night, whatever. I put light cream in my tea at night. I enjoy that. Can't have that in my coffee in the morning anymore. You know, the whole day long, it's black coffee and or green, you know, unsweetened tea. So at work, I'm drinking oolong and a form of green tea called white tea and green tea. You know, I drink that all morning into the early afternoon. And I find that, you know, I do get touches of a little bit of hunger in the morning and in the early afternoon around traditional lunchtime. You just fight through that. Now, it's only been a little less than 2 weeks, so I'm hoping that dies down eventually, but it's not a biggie. Look, I go on Reddit and I see people complaining, I'm so hungry, I'm so hungry. You can't be a big baby, okay? You gotta be an adult with this stuff. All right? So you're a little hungry, especially in the beginning. Isn't it worth it, you know? If it's that bad, you're doing something wrong. You're snacking or you're not really fasting. They got these people who want to put the cream in the coffee. They want to put the sweetener. They don't want to do it right. And then they wonder why they end up hungry, like really hungry. The stuff I'm talking about is very mild. So, and then, if I drink tea right until the end, I'm going to have a problem with the evening commute because it's like my commute is roughly an hour and a half to 2 hours, depending on traffic and weather or whatever. So, you always hit the bathroom before you leave work on a long commute. But, on the way home, if you drank a lot, too soon to leaving time, it might be a lot urgent by the time you get home, put it that way. So you try to usually stop drinking stuff a little on the, early to mid-afternoon so that by the time I leave between 4 and 5, I don't have that worry. So, and actually I'd say around anywhere from like 2 o'clock to 2:30 on, that's when the real hunger blunting effect hits its max. That's when you don't feel anything. You feel that you have that familiar empty feeling you haven't eaten. But the hunger is like gone. He's gone. He got out of Dodge. He's gone. And that is a wonderful feeling where you're like, well, I haven't eaten since last night. And I'm not hungry. And this is where you could actually push it if you had the time. Like the other night when we took my daughter to the doctor, I got home, I get home between 6 and 7 o'clock most nights. And, I'll eat dinner. By that time, I've done about 21 hours of fasting. But I was able to push it longer till around after 8 o'clock because we took her to the doctor. And not hungry at all. And before we went to the doctor that night, my wife was like, oh, you want to eat something real quick before we leave? I'm like, no, I'd rather enjoy dinner. I will wait until we get home. And she looked at me real quick like, okay, like surprised. And that's what I did. I waited until we got home after 8 p.m. And then, she already had the dinner there. I don't care if it was a little cold, nuke it a little bit. So it was great. It was great. I got a few extra hours of fasting, fat burning that night. But for nights I eat a little earlier, I guess I'll just stop the feeding window a little earlier. I make up for it on the tail end. So I try to always hit about 20 to 22 hours. And if it's a little less, it's a little less. Like on weekends, it's going to be, an earlier fast. I'll end between 2 and 4 p.m. I try to push it as long as possible unless my wife wants to go somewhere and I can't avoid eating. But I'm not going to stress out too much on the weekend. I don't want this to be an annoying lifestyle. I'll tell you, it's already better than HCG in that you don't have to worry about going off or if an occasion comes up. You don't have to worry, I was injecting myself. I got to do rounds. I can't eat for 3 or 4 days until I get off. You don't have any of that with this. All right, this is like very stress-free. It's very stress-free. It's very easy to do in a lot of ways. It fits into your schedule easy. It's actually a very easy lifestyle. So all these people, you read these articles about these anti-IF articles, and one of the things they always like to say is, it could be effective weight loss tool, but then you're always going to have the problem of, they always go into the scheduling, how hard it is to do, it's hungry, and basically you're going to fail. You're going to fail because you're not going to be able to sustain this. And that's a bunch of BS baloney, okay? That's a bunch of BS baloney. I mean, if you're a big baby and you go back, it's like with anything. If you go back to eating the way that what got you here in the first place, you're going to gain the weight back. That's the bottom line. That's on you. That's on you. It'd be great to be one of these skinny people who just naturally are thin, never have a weight problem, eat what they want. I was also reading another thing online, Reddit, where basically someone who never had a weight problem is talking about fat people. And I like how people like this talk about fat people or write about fat people. They always write things like they do this or they do that. It's automatically putting them in another category, calling them they. It's actually dehumanizing, right? They, those flawed people. But this person still made a good point, said, all these, because it was in response to a comment where somebody said, a lot of overweight people seem to eat no more than the people around them who don't have weight problems. And this person pointed out and said, no, they eat a lot when you're not watching. When people are watching, they appear to eat what everybody else eats, but then they binge eat at home. And when nobody's watching, that's when they're really piling on the calories. And, it was a fair point. As someone who's been overweight since childhood, emotional eating problems and things like that, there's a lot to be said about that. A lot of overweight people do really, and I've had this complaint in the past where I'm like, they don't understand, I don't eat anymore. Well, yeah, when you're out, you don't eat more than anybody else. You have maybe a sandwich at lunch, just like this one over here who's never had a weight problem is having, or they may be eating more for lunch than you. But that person may not be eating between meals. They don't get the hunger at times. My wife's brother-in-law, thin, no weight problem, doesn't eat. A lot of times he's never hungry. He just naturally fasts. It's just the way he is. Like, I've seen the guy come around food and not even take a nibble. Like, he's not hungry. This guy fasts naturally. His body fasts. Probably doesn't snack between meals, doesn't eat that much. Maybe doesn't eat all morning. This guy does intermittent fasting without knowing it. So there's a lot to be, when you think about all these things, there's a lot to be said and learned here and considered. So I hope to be one of these people who have these massive weight loss. Looking at myself in the camera here, I'm like, oh, I'm still fat. Yeah, it's going to take a little while. Rome was not built in a day. But I'm telling you, the little changes add up over time. And I already see a lot of differences, even if you can't see them yet. So, yeah, I always have a lot to talk about with these things, but I hope I'm interesting enough to, get the mind going, maybe make you consider things you haven't considered, and also bring things to your attention, like the whole doctor thing. The doctors at the local hospital here do intermittent fasting. They're all into it. Who would have thunk it? Because there's certainly, most of them are not telling their patients about it. And that is a shame. They're keeping it to themselves, right? Keeping it to themselves. So that was eye-opening. So anyway, please like, subscribe, hit the bell, and check out my shirts. Check out the shirts. They're pretty cool. I'm coming up with some really, I think, cool, witty, humorous designs around intermittent fasting. I really like the smiley face one. I'm going to have several variations on that. But the general catch-all one is already up. And I guess that's about it for now. TGIF, it's Friday. I'm about to go have my black coffee, yum, and get this ball rolling. And please, comment below on how your journey's going. Or if you haven't started the journey yet, you have any questions, maybe I have an answer. I want to get this channel active. I'm an active person. Like I'm into the back and forth, the communication. I can't always answer right away, but I try to answer. Hopefully I could grow this channel out. This one has more of a potential to grow than my crypto channel. I have a crypto channel for cryptocurrency, and with the market the way it is right now and whatever, this one here has got a much better chance at growing, and I actually enjoy doing videos more for this subject. So, alright, that's that. I'll just stop now so this doesn't become too like, oh, what else is he can he think about saying? And I don't know. I'll see about doing videos over the weekend. It's hard for me over the weekend. I don't know what I'm going to end up doing on the weekend. So every morning I have this quiet time before work that I do these videos and without interruption. So that's a weekday thing. So you may or may not see videos from me over the weekend, but rest assured I'll start again fresh on Monday. In any case, all right. So, like I said, over the weekend, I continue the fasting. I do it in a slightly less restrictive way. I have a larger eating window on the weekend. And then come Monday, I go back to the OMAD one meal or smaller eating window at the end of the day, which has so far been effective for me. Good luck to you on your journey. Good luck to you if you're still information gathering. And let's do this. All right. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, bell, check out the shirts. See you later. Bye.